2007, and each year we host 3 to 4 speakers across a variety of different topics that would be of interest to those of you who have interest in topics ranging from financial planning, financial analysis, portfolio management, the markets, and so forth. We are very, very excited about tonight's program. This program is also being co-sponsored by our 2 student organizations, the Financial Management Association and the Financial Planning Association. We'd like to welcome our World Campus students who are joining us through our YouTube channel. So welcome to all of them. And again, we will have our presentation followed by a Q&A session. And to introduce our guest speakers, I'm going to introduce the presidents of our 2 student organizations, Ben Lowry from the Financial Management Association and Jason Becker from the Financial Planning Association, who will introduce our speakers.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight. We have a wonderful guest lined up for you all. Mark Luschini serves as the Chief Investment Strategist for Janney Montgomery Scott, who leads the investment strategy group. In that capacity, Mark and his team are responsible for establishing the firm's broad outlook for the economy and financial markets, and developing commentaries tailored to match their needs with sound investment strategy. His team also establishes the capital market assessments that serve as the template for asset allocation models used in portfolio construction and financial planning. Mark also serves as the President and Chief Investment Officer of Janney Capital Management and is the investment management subsidiary of Janney Montgomery Scott. Under his leadership, Janney Capital Management has delivered competitive investment results across its product set and growing assets to more than $3.5 billion. Mark leads the investment committee, which sets macro policy for the firm's global equity, fixed income, and alternative assets, and directly participates in managing the multi-asset allocation.
Mark also served on the board of managers for Janney and currently serves as the trustee for the firm's pension and profit sharing plan. He is also a standing member of the Janney Wealth Management Research Department's Mutual Fund, Exchange Traded Fund, and Alternative Investments Committees. Mark has spent more than 30 years in the investment industry. He draws on that experience to speak on topics related to macroeconomics and financial markets in seminars, client events, and conferences. He is frequently quoted in publications ranging from the Wall Street Journal and Barron's, the New York Times, and USA Today. In addition, he regularly appears on various media outlets, including CNBC, Fox Business News, Bloomberg Television and Radio, and the Nightly Business Report. He has an undergraduate degree in psychology and MBA in finance from Yale University and holds the Chartered Market Technician designation for the Market Technicians Association. So without further ado, we'd like to welcome Mr. Mark Luschini.
Well, that was a mouthful. I'm not sure I could live up to that introduction. And overriding all that, and most importantly, I was born and raised in Erie, so I'm glad to be home. So what I thought I would do with my remarks today is cover kind of the macroeconomic views that we established from the investment strategy group, of which I lead as the firm's chief investment strategist. Part of my responsibility, as was alluded to in the introduction, is to work with a group of professionals covering equity and fixed income markets primarily, and establish a house view for Janney Montgomery Scott. I also tend to serve as the firm's talking head, if you will, through media sources, as was mentioned. But in that capacity, we convey our views, our interpretation of macroeconomic data, geopolitical risks, monetary policy shifts, so on and so forth. We communicate that verbally, we publish regularly, we have analytical calls with our financial advisors across the 150 offices that Janney maintains throughout a theater that covers ground from Portland, Maine, down to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and as far west as Nashville, Tennessee at this juncture. So that's part of my responsibility. The other part of my responsibility, which actually has me serving in a rather unique role at Janney Montgomery Scott, because typically these 2 positions are separate and distinct from each other, is that of a practitioner. I also head Janney Capital Management, and was mentioned, we manage discretionarily over $3.5 billion, today almost $4 billion in assets across traditional equity, fixed income, and multi-asset strategies. So the point being here is that part of my communication, part of what you're going to hear tonight, is commentary that's built on macroeconomic views that somebody in a strategist role would post. But in addition to that, it's also grounded in views that I actually, along with with my team, expressed in investment portfolios as a practitioner, for which, by the way, we're accountable and measured because we have to produce results that used to be done quarterly appraisals that were delivered in manual form. And today, as we all know, clients can look in their pajamas 24/7 to see in real time what the performance of our accounts are that we're stewarding on their behalf. The point being there is that I think that gives me an opportunity to speak to what is not only occurring on the ground, but at the same time to bring it up to a level and, if you will, expand the lens, not only domestically, but globally, which hopefully you'll find some use and have it serve as a productive investment for you to spend this evening with me. So, the title of my presentation was, what will 2018 bring as an encore? So the setup there, the keys, if you will, was that obviously there's an encore to something that preceded it. And so assuming that not all of you necessarily were carrying apart all the data points that were accumulating over the last 12 to 18 months about economic activity, not only in the US, but again globally, and as well what the returns were that were generated across different financial asset classes and what kind of a year it was, mark against historical perspective. I'm going to provide some of that by way of digressing for a moment to set up for what I think will be then a presentation around 2018 that will carry over from events we saw coming out of the back end of 2017, which means I think it's going to be positive, I think it's going to be good, but it's also going to be different. So what we've seen preceding 2018 is an economic expansion here in the United States that at this juncture is a little over 9.5 years old, making it the third longest economic expansion in U.S. history dating back to 1850. And we've also had this growth occur, obviously persistently, but also at a sub-trend level until recently. Growth since the end of the recession, which the body that declares officially the beginning and ends of recessions, known as the National Bureau of Economic Research, determined the end of the recession was June of 2009. And so we've had positive growth subsequent to that point in time, but that growth rate is averaged about 2% annually. By way of perspective, over the last half century, economic growth in the United States has averaged about 3% annually. So good, but not great, until recently. And you can see perhaps somewhat in the uptick there that you see in the chart up and to the right, is the fact that in 2017, we had 2 consecutive quarters of better than 3% growth. That was the second and third quarter of last year. The fourth quarter of last year missed on a 3 handle. It came in with a print of 2.6%, but it's subject to revision, so it could potentially be marked up somewhat. But an influence on the data that the government releases under the GDP, gross domestic product figures, is data that is oftentimes very lumpy because trade and inventory data is very unpredictable, very lumpy in nature, and therefore can expand or contract the underlying GDP number pretty smartly on a quarter-over-quarter basis, smooths out once you extend the time series over years or year. But if we look at the fourth quarter data and look at a kind of a control set known as domestic final sales, which strips away the inventory and trade influences, that number was actually 4.3% for the fourth quarter last year, which made that the fastest rate of growth in domestic final sales in more than 4 years. So the point is we've seen a continuation of this now well above trend and to some degree even accelerating pace of economic activity close out 2017 and lead us now into 2018. Economic growth that's positive and above trend isn't something that's just proprietary to the United States. So looking at other large economic blocks like Japan and the Eurozone collectively, not each individual country, but collectively represents an economic block of about $18 trillion. In perspective, the U.S. is about a $20 trillion economy, the largest in the world, representing about 25% of global GDP. Of course, if you decompose the Eurozone into Germany, France, and so on and so forth, they get much smaller. In fact, Japan is the third largest economy in the world, and it's about $5 or $6 trillion. But what you see is, again, out of large economic blocks outside the United States, sustained positive and above trend economic growth. In fact, as it relates to Japan, as a consequence of policies instituted by Prime Minister Shinzo Abe about 4 years ago, which included fiscal impulses and as well a monetary policy change since he nominated Governor Kuroda as the head of Bank of Japan to basically bury the yen, has helped to finally defeat what had been endemic deflation in the Japanese economy for the last 15 years, to where today Japan is actually experiencing inflation, which is a rare phenomenon, at least in the recent history of Japanese economic activity. Now, mind you, it's not anywhere near the Bank of Japan's target rate of 2% inflation. It's still, in fact, running below 1%, but it's positive nonetheless, and they continue to have the pedal pressed all the way to the floor with regard to accommodative monetary settings in an effort to try to, again, further reflate Japanese economic growth. But the good news is that they have been able to do that. And so what we've seen here recently is posting for fourth quarter GDP that was positive, making now 8 consecutive quarters of positive economic growth in Japan. And that's the first time you've had that many consecutive quarters of growth going back to the 1980s. As it relates to Europe, the same thing, of course, is true. Above trend economic growth, primarily instituted by the European Central Bank's leader, Mario Draghi. Again, doing the same thing, pulling a page out of the playbook of the U.S. Federal Reserve by buying up copious amounts of bonds and lowering interest rates, not just to zero, but below zero, actually setting interest rates with a negative rate of interest to try to, again, disincent institutions from hoarding cash and instead create some velocity of money and loans out into the marketplace. And it's working very successfully. In fact, in Europe, in 2016, Europe's economic growth rate was faster than that of the growth rate in the United States, which is the first time that occurred since 1998. So we were stunned by that, thinking that's really phenomenal and it's unlikely to persist. But what happened, in fact, was that their growth in 2017 also trumped U.S. economic growth, making it 2 consecutive years in which they've beaten U.S. economic activity. So that substantiates the efforts put together by not only monetary authorities across the Euro area, but also some fiscal shifts that are taking place, such as those being undertaken as we speak by Emmanuel Macron in France to try to again revive economic activity by way of being a little bit more business friendly in their actions. So again, looking across 2 sizable economic blocks, we see a contribution to global economic activity that is a complement to that which is being produced by the United States. Well, let's look at the world's second largest economy as a standalone, and of course that's China. And they've been operating here pretty consistently at about a 6.8% growth rate. Now, China's own premier, Li Keqiang himself, said the growth rate that's published by the official government statistics of China is completely man-made. So therefore, I don't lose too much sleep over looking to the right of the decimal point as to exactly what it is China's publishing for their growth rate, other than the fact that it's an order of magnitude that's quick, certainly faster than that of developed countries' economic growth, and measured in whether it's accelerating or decelerating, which, as you can see there by the chart, is decelerating. But decelerating for good reason. One, China grew from a $2 trillion economy in the year 2000 to a $10 trillion economy by the end of the decade. So the law of large numbers begins to work against you at some point. The other is that President Xi Jinping has adopted a policy where he is seeking the quality of growth, not the quantity of growth. And reforms that are being undertaken by his regime over the next 5 years are going to be very aggressively directed at helping to stem pollution, but also financial reforms to create a more healthier economic growth rate, one that's driven more by consumption rather than investment. In other words, pivoting to look more like the United States, which is 70% driven by consumption, personal consumption, or like Japan, which is 60% personal consumption, whereas China today, while seeing an accelerating pace of consumption as a proportion of overall economic activity, is still less than 50%. The other is government-led investment that often has ended up being segments on 60 Minutes, showing roads leading nowhere, bridges that don't have a road attached to the other side, or buildings that no one lives in. Importantly, too, one, if you're going to assess global economic activity, has to take a litmus test of China. And of course, the blowback in China is directly into emerging markets because China and emerging market countries do more trade amongst themselves than trade with the big economic blocks, the developed countries, that seems like it would be more likely to be the case, such as Europe and America. So the chart there on the right of this particular slide shows that contributions to overall global growth are dominated by China. Over 1/3 of global growth is contributed to by the growth rate in China. China basically creates an economy the size of Canada every year. And since, again, so much of emerging market countries produce goods and services, they're sold into China, since China consumes 50% of everything that comes out of the ground, basically food and rocks. It means that their wagons are tied to the economy in China. And emerging market contribution to growth in the aggregate is 45%. So together, that's 78%, or 3/4 of global economic activity is tied to the goods and services and the trade done in and through the emerging market universe, which includes China. The United States, at again, the largest economy in the world at $20 trillion, at 25% of global GDP, contributes a sizable, but when compared to the former two, insignificant proportion to global economic activity of about 10%. But the good news is, collectively, we're seeing a synchronous level of global economic activity that is at a level unlike any other time since 2011. So, given that backdrop, given the macroeconomic conditions that is fostering and reinforcing economic growth that is all sturdy, if not continuing to accelerate in certain economies around the world, that's produced an environment where market participants, like me, have been in what we call risk-on modality, which is to say, buy stuff that goes up a lot when the economy is prospering and it creates a fertile condition for corporate profits to grow. And basically, if not avoid, underneath that which is going to be tied more to low return investments, or that which might encounter the headwinds of shifting monetary conditions, as this kind of global economic activity isn't being lost on central bank officials. We're looking around and saying, perhaps those emergency level measures that we instituted in 2008 and 2009 to try to resuscitate the patients that were on life support as a consequence of the aftermath of the financial crisis are no longer needed. So maybe we don't need to buy as many bonds as we had been buying before. Maybe the Federal Reserve, who took its balance sheet from $800 billion to $4 trillion over the course of 10 years, doesn't need to add more bonds to its balance sheet than it's not. In fact, it's allowing bonds to mature and run off its balance sheet. And maybe the European Central Bank, that's been buying so many bonds, it's actually running out of bonds to buy, doesn't need to buy as many bonds. And they too are starting to lower the amount of bonds that they're buying. They're still buying, but fewer than they had over previous months. And the Bank of Japan itself is at least beginning to get a twinkle in its eye relative to the prospects, and perhaps at this point, more hope than legitimacy, that it too will begin to lean off the Japanese economy from the uber accommodation that is provided to Japan over the last half decade or so. So the returns, of course, in 2017 were nothing short of phenomenal, really across global bourses. If you look at the returns that are stacked here in these bar graphs, in the first four columns, whether you're talking about the 22% rate of return on a total return basis provided by the U.S. equity market, or the 37% rate of return provided by the emerging market universe, you're talking phenomenal returns by Japan and Europe in between. 20%. You go back to 1926, look at any kind of table of performance of the S&P 500 over an extended period of time, it's averaged closer to 9.6, 9.8% annually. The fact that we've actually had, in the last 9 years, 7 years in which we've had double-digit gains is alone in and of itself phenomenal. Let alone to tap on at the end of that a year in which we realized 20+% gains across major developed and emerging market equities. Now, of course, what is helping to produce a return for stocks, which is faster global economic growth, providing an environment in which corporations, through increasing revenue and therefore through margins that are maintained or expanded, improving earnings growth, is typically not the same environment that's going to be favorable for the bond market. that usually means breeding an environment in which central banks are beginning to raise interest rates, in which there may be hints of inflation. And the consequence of those two start to pressure bond values, and therefore, for counterproductively, it kind of returns bond investors a realizing. So in 2017, bond investors did realize at least a positive rate of return, but the Bloomberg Barclays Aggregate Bond Index, which is basically a proxy for the U.S. bond market, produced a total return of about 3.5%. Probably a little better than the coupon earned by the bonds that are the constituents within that fixed income proxy. So not bad, but when compared to the alternative, quite poor. And we're of the view that perhaps in the summer of 2016, when the 10-year Treasury bond yielded 1.37%, we believe we likely saw the end of the great bull market in bonds that started back in the early 1980s, when then Chairman Paul Volcker raised interest rates up into the mid-teens in an effort to choke off inflation. Won the battle against inflation, but since that point in time when Treasury yields were 15 to 20%, it's basically been a linear move, albeit stair-step, from the upper left-hand quadrant to the lower right-hand quadrant to a 137 on the 10-year. Now, shifting from the bull market to bear market typically is a V-shape. It's more typically U-shaped, so you bottom around and you have fits and starts along the way. But we believe we're in the process of moving toward the early innings, if you will, of a bond bear market. So that kind of is a digression to what was and what was recently, but what is and what's going to be. That's part of the job is my having played Nostradamus and forecast what I think markets and economic conditions are going to look like in typically periods of 12 months hence or longer, if my crystal ball isn't overly foggy. So one body that I look at to provide an interpretation of views around the globe on matters economic is the International Monetary Fund. Twice a year they put out a forecast for economic growth, and this is a body that is notorious for being overly optimistic. Every forecast begins with a number that by the time they go back to adjust the number subsequent to the number before, they end up lowering the forecast. And it's consistent. This is a case recently that is almost without precedent in which the International Monetary Fund, in its most recent forecast, and this is fresh by the way, it's dated here January 2018, actually raised their forecast for global growth in 2018 and 2019. So what I'd like to leave you with is looking at this chart, is that looking at 2018 and 2019, a couple things stand out. Consistent trend, maybe slightly above trend growth in developed markets, faster growth, but not uncommon to see that kind of growth coming from markets like India and China, but also not that this is necessarily exhaustive in terms of obviously having every country on earth listed here, but the majority of which, in the economically important ones being listed here, notice none of them have a negative sign in front of it. The point being there is that according to at least forecasts of the International Monetary Fund, global economic growth should remain positive through 2018 and through 2019. We post a similar view. In fact, that is why we believe and have stated publicly, and we can show again here right now, that we think that this economic expansion, that as I mentioned today is 9.5 years old, will usurp the longest economic expansion in U.S. history, which would mean that we would have to see positive economic growth through the end of the 10th year, which would take us to at least June of 2019. That's not too far away at this juncture, but given the amount of economic inertia coming from the data points that I'll go over here momentarily, we believe it's exceedingly likely that we are going to see consistent growth persist and therefore allow us to claim the crown of operating, if you will, in the longest economic expansion in U.S. history. So, here we are approaching the end of February, so we're 2 months into the first quarter of 2018, and how do things look along that forecast? Well, there are 12 regional Federal Reserves, but some of them publish things that are more useful for market participants than others do, especially in events like this, which is accompanied by a picture. And so the Atlanta Federal Reserve publishes what they call GDP Now report, and the New York Federal Reserve publishes what they call a Nowcast. And they kind of come at the accumulation of data somewhat differently. The Atlanta Federal Reserve includes some soft data like survey respondents, feelings about how expectations are today and what they think they're going to look like going forward. The New York Fed tends to use only hard data. And usually they'll be at times rather disparate in terms of what their expectations are in real time as to what economic activity or growth is over a particular period. Eventually they tend to reconcile, and they do a pretty good job reconciling around the number that ultimately the government publishes when it releases its GDP report with a lag well after the quarter has ended. So again, here we are approaching the end of the kind of two-thirds point of the first quarter of this year, and the Atlanta Federal Reserve is reporting GDP growth here in Q1 of 3.2%. And the New York Federal Reserve Nowcast is reporting economic growth. This is 1 week scale, was 3.35%. The adjusted every Friday morning is now 3.11%. Either way, in both cases, both are reporting economic activity, given the high frequency data that's been released so far in 2018, that has a pre-handle associated with it, picking up on the steam that we left 2017. So we're encouraged about our fundamental forecast for positive and continued above trend economic growth in 2018. The key to a self-sustaining economic expansion is obviously employment. Because it breeds confidence and it obviously breeds spending behavior, which again drives 70% of economic activity here in the United States. And by the way, the U.S. consumer is also almost 20% of global economic activity. That's how powerful spending is. So if you're going to make any assessment about U.S. economic growth, you have to take a litmus test of the consumer, what kind of shape they're in, what's their propensity to spend. And that's going to then obviously be somewhat predictive with regard to its contribution to economic activity. So we sit here today with a 4.1% rate of unemployment in the United States. Given the current rate of job creation, which over the last 3 months has averaged about 190,000, which may be unrealistic to assume as the labor market continues to tighten that level of employment will continue. But as long as the rate of job creation is sustained about a level above a level of about 100 to 110,000, which is the estimated number of jobs that are necessary to be created on a monthly basis, just to absorb you or high school graduates, first-time job seekers into the workforce without bumping up the unemployment rate. Assuming that we can produce a job level above that, then we're going to continue to see that unemployment rate work lower over 2018. And predicated upon where consensus forecasts are for job creation in 2018, it actually is tracking toward the unemployment rate at the end of 2018, likely hitting a level of 3.5%, which would make it the lowest unemployment rate in the United States since 1960. And the underemployment rate, that's also reported from the Bureau of Labor Statistics every first Friday of a month, which includes not just the unemployed, it also includes those that are discouraged from looking for work, and those that are working part-time for economic reasons. That number is 8.2%. There's always a delta between the unemployment rate, the U3, as it's called, and the U6 underemployment rate. But that delta of about 400 basis points, 4%, is about historically at a comfortable level. Back in 2009, when the unemployment rate, the U3, peaked at 10% in the aftermath of the great financial crisis, the underemployment rate stood at over 17%. So it compressed significantly as both have worked lower and to the right. As a consequence of individuals feeling much better about job security, and we look at a number of reports that come out, such as the Job Opening and Labor Turnover Report, the acronym known as JOLTS. Inside that report is a number called the quit ratio, and it shows the percentage of people who are basically quitting their jobs, and it stands at 2.2%, which is a reasonably strong level, and is a good contrarian indicator that you would say, well, people are quitting their job. You're not likely to quit your job unless you're secure in one, finding a new job, or that being the new people on the job, quick or hired into, you're not likely to be fired from it. So that's a good, again, signal for the strength of the labor market when that quick ratio is actually elevated, which it is today. So people, again, are very comfortable about labor conditions as they continue to tighten here in the United States. In fact, that unemployment rate of 4.1% is about half of 1% lower than what the Federal Reserve's own estimate of what full employment is in the United States, which is about 4.6%. So, again, good number. And oh, by the way, that statistic isn't just once again a U.S. phenomenon. It's shared globally. Today, 70% of member countries of the OECD, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, 70% of its member nations are reporting unemployment rates in their respective countries that are below what the OECD defines as full employment in those respective countries. So again, this is a global phenomenon. So it's breeding wage growth, and the much maligned wage growth. Why aren't we seeing wage increases? Well, the Phillips curve is flat. I don't think it necessarily is destined to be rendered into the dust pit. So we're at a kink in the Phillips curve. And, you know, Phillips curve is unemployment fall, you start to see wage inflation. Everyone's wondering how unemployment is falling, and we're not seeing more significant wage inflation. Well, we're at the kink in which you're more likely to see, because it's exceedingly rare that since 1970, that's never happened, that the unemployment rate is actually this low or going lower, and we don't see wage inflation. So we're seeing wage inflation. The last report from the Bureau of Statistics showed that wage gains were 2.9%. Now, you can pick around that number, and you know, you can make an argument that perhaps it wasn't as uniform across positions, whether they're managerial or subordinates, but it was 2.9%, and the trend is up and to the right. Once again, the Atlanta Federal Reserve does its own formulated calculation of wage growth, but they use people within in their job at least 1 year. And the consistency, and I think the importance of that, is it's kind of the same store sales comparison, because it's that person who's labored in a single job for at least a year. So what's this employer doing to reward that person? Raising their wages by 3%. The BLS number that goes into the calculation for wages is skewed by a couple of things. It's skewed by the composition of the jobs that are being created. It's also skewed by those who are coming into the workforce oftentimes for the first time, or perhaps are less skilled, and replacing somebody who is more skilled or more highly paid who's retiring, because they're a baby boom generation, and as a consequence are pulling down the wage growth that's reported from the BLS. So again, I don't get too caught up in the preciseness to the right of the decimal. The point is wage growth is occurring, and we expect it to continue. Oftentimes, before we see a recession, you'll see wage gains upward of 4%. We don't think we're necessarily going to see 4%, but something north of a 3% seems highly likely in the very near future. So, combination of job security, wage growth, the fact that household net worth today is the highest in history. Household net worth today, your assets minus your liabilities, accounting for the fact that you had the stock market go from 666 on March 9th of 2009, you know, on this number, to closing at 2,700 today, along with the fact that housing prices in the aggregate, right, somebody's house depreciating and not regaining value from financial prices, I get that. But in the aggregate, if you look at the Case-Shiller house price index, in the aggregate, house prices have all recovered, almost lost in the aftermath of the breaking of the housing bubble. And so the combination of rising home values, which matters a lot more than more households, about 2/3 of all households own homes, plus 50% on stock, and rising stock values has led household net worth today to a number of about $96 trillion, which is 40% higher than when last peaked in 2007. So the wealth effect from that is also a powerful force, if not necessarily in terms of making its contribution to spending, but certainly helping to elevate confidence levels among consumers that we see reported consistently from Bloomberg surveys, University of Michigan, and the Conference Board that puts it at 17-year high. And what had been a missing ingredient from making a contribution to the economy is coming on with flying colors today, and that's the business community. Business sentiment is also at better than decade highs. Businesses are reporting that they're increasing capital expenditure plans, compensation plans, hiring plans, and they're doing all of the above. Capital expenditures are in the midst, very early innings, in the midst of an upcycle that is very powerful and has only been ignited really in the last couple of months. or that is taking a fast right now, a couple of years. And it's only going to accelerate as a consequence of corporate tax reform, which has enabled companies to write off immediately the expenses for capital equipment, which is only going to, again, feed into not only economic activity, but as well inside certain industries within the marketplace. So this boost that's coming today from the business community is augmenting the growth that's already been supported by the consumer for quite some time. So again, this is a fundamental environment that's healthy for corporations and producing a very strong, very aggressive profile for earnings growth for S&P 500 companies. So what these squiggly lines represent are a series over the last 5 years of earnings estimates by analysts, which are notorious, not unlike the IMF, for being overly optimistic early in the year, only to take down those earnings expectations over the course of the year. So that's why you see the trend lines start in the upper left-hand corner and goes down to the right, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 2015, 16, we were in the midst of what we were calling an earnings recession, because actually economic growth in the United States came down to a level close to 2%, with some technically call it a recession, even though it didn't necessarily show up in a conventional rate of recession by seeing labor conditions weakening considerably. But here we are in 2018, but what you see is two things. One, you didn't see the diminution of earnings estimates, and secondly, you see this parabolic move in estimates. What is that as a result of? Overtime. In fact, this chart is already rendered stale. It's not even but a couple of weeks old by the fact that corporate earnings estimates have continued to be ratcheted up over the last 4 weeks, unlike any period I've ever seen, in which today, that number for estimate for S&P 500 earnings in 2018 is not $150, it's shown there, it's $156, which at the day level of the S&P 500 puts the market at about a 17.4, 17.5 forward multiple. Demanding, but not unfair given economic conditions in the context of alternatives, the lack of alternatives or anything else. So that's a powerful force that's helping to support financial markets in 2018. And once again, this is proprietary to the United States. We actually favored non-U.S. equities in 2017, and they ended up flattering our portfolios by having a significant overweight in Japan, in Europe, and in emerging markets. And we think that will be the case again in 2018, principally because not only are valuations, in particular Japan and Europe, cheaper by way of comparison to their U.S.-based brethren, but also the earnings growth profile, while powerful in the United States, is matched or exceeded by that of, for instance, Europe, which is shown there in the top chart, which is, or the first panel, which is showing growth rates of 12%, or Japan in the lower panel, which is showing earnings growth rates in excess of 20%. So again, this is the feedstock for stock prices to continue to go up in value. And of course, the chase for yield, which investors have undertaken really over the last 10 years, continues to thrive. The appetite has not been satisfied for yield. So everything across the bond market has been bid up and yield's been down. So it's down. So today you have a phenomenon where you have, for instance, high yield or junk bonds at historic heights. Heights being the yield on high yield, the spread over that of the yield of treasuries is at the lowest level today since 2008. It's about 100 basis points away from being the lowest since 1995. So high yield put in a good market return last year, 7.5% on a total return basis. We're long high yield, given the fact that as a relative return investment, when our benchmark is the Bloomberg Aggregate Bond Index, we're having to match against the benchmark. So perhaps while we might find those yields today at a spread of just 300 or 400 basis points over that which is offered by treasuries, kind of skinny and maybe unrewarding on a risk return profile relative to the return on treasuries, it's attractive. And given the fact that default rates are still exceedingly low and are not trending higher, and recovery rates on those bonds that have defaulted are quite high, well above average, is a cocktail for us that suggests that if all we do is earn carry, all we do is earn the spread over the treasury, will outperform the Bloomberg market aggregate bond index. So we'll stay long in high yield until we see further signs that monetary policy is becoming. An area that looks intriguing to us is commodities. Commodity prices have underperformed at the S&P 500 by the widest value since the Commodity Research Bureau created an index in 1957. And while it doesn't go back to 1957, it is true, even though it's showing here from 1990 through recent, that these moves, where commodities outperform stocks, stocks outperform commodities, tend to move in cycles. And notice the cycle period is about 10 years. 10 years of underperformance, 10 years of outperformance, that's basically China coming online, and then 10 years of underperformance. So if you're a mean reversion theorist, you would say commodities are due for a period, and maybe an extended period of outperformance. They look cheap on a relative basis. So we made a call that commodities could look quite interesting in 2018. Commodities being, of course, oil, precious metals, base metals, no rags, software, that's what matters. Hibernating inflation, we think is beginning to emerge. We did get a CPI reading here recently. It was a little hot. If you look at the 3-month run rate of what was published from the Consumer Price Index, actually it was running about 2.9%, which is the fastest since 2011. So we're seeing a pickup in inflation, which the Federal Reserve has been treating so far in terms of its level of sort of dormancy as something that was transitory. They believe it was a phenomenon that was influenced by some, if you will, one-off or idiosyncratic factors that would eventually one-off or go away when you start to see inflation move up toward the target of 2%. Well, if you look at the New York Federal Reserve's underlying inflation gauge, which is depicted here on the chart on the left, it's running today, actually just came out last Friday at 3%, which is the highest level of inflation that's been published by the underlying inflation gauge since the series began 11 years ago. And it has a good correlation, and therefore tends to foreshadow where inflation is likely to go. On the right chart, you have the ISM Institute Supply Management Manufacturing Purchasing Manager Index, also a leading indicator, but also a good leading indicator that is a high correlator to inflation. And so the same thing follows there, that we're seeing rising prospects of inflation that's likely to emerge. Hyperinflation? No, but inflation that grinds up into the red. Again, not lost on Fed officials who have begun to normalize interest rates. Now, mind you, this is after a nearly 10-year period of time when the Federal Reserve maintained a zero-bound interest rate policy. It's only in December of 2015 that after almost 10 years, they raised interest rates for the first time. Now they've raised rates 5 times. And right now, their forecast for economic growth for 2018 believes for them that it will warrant 3 more rate hikes over the balance of this year. I think the risk is 4, not 3. And what market participants stood at the beginning of the year was for 2, which is why we had 2 things. The 10-year bond go from 2.4% at the beginning of the year to 2.88% about 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago at this point in time. And little hints of inflation, which actually the CPI report came out after the market kickoff here a couple of weeks ago. But other hints were availing themselves to market participants. That combination set investors back as investors had to adjust their expectations that perhaps the Federal Reserve may have to not only be emboldened to hit its dot plot target of 3 rate hikes, but maybe even go beyond. And market participants were prepared for that event, and that precipitated and then was amplified by the unwinding of the whole vol trade with the fixed index and the risk parity funds rebalancing out of equities in the overall authority. Fixed income instruments that only help to amplify declines down some 11%. But the cause and the precipitation of the decline was the adjustment market participants were making to a different interest rate regime in an expectation thereof that this regime is permanent, is different now going forward, which we think it could be the case. Therefore, the volatility that we've seen recently, which is unlike the volatility we've seen in the last 18 months, we went over 300 days without so much as a 3% pullback in stock prices. Haven't seen that since the 1950s. We went over 400 days without so much as a 5% pullback in stock prices. Unprecedented. So that level of tranquility is unusual. The 10% decline is not unusual. That's common. What was unusual about it was that it took so long to develop. So there was a combination of demanding valuations, rocky sentiment, and the market participants that got caught flat-footed that caused the decline. We welcome it because one, we can use it opportunistically, or two, actually it reminds investors that stocks are risky. And one has to think about it in the context of gaming it in a way that's proportional to the risk level. What I'd be worried about is not about the correction, which we think is going to be more frequent, yes, on the investment landscape in 2018, maybe not 11%, but pullbacks of order of magnitude that gives people thinking a little bit, is a recession. That would warrant a significant de-rating in earnings, and therefore a de-risking of portfolio that could, I think, create a rather sinister outcome for stock prices, particularly from levels that they continue to be supported with multiples of 17 or 18 times forward earnings, which to me says it could be a grizzly bear. So I want to look for signs of a recession, especially when bear markets are rare outside of recession. So I'm not going to worry about it, other than the fact that one always has to consider the odds of a black swan. But outside of that, it's rare for markets to sell off, as defined by people like me, a 20% or more decline in stock prices with a duration of 4 to 6 months. Exceedingly rare to have that occur outside of recession. So, can you predict a recession? We can be pretty good at it, actually. A lot has been made of this particular chart over the last couple of weeks, or a couple of months even, and that is the potential for an inversion of the yield curve. The inverted yield curve, where short-term rates exceed the interest rates offered by longer-term bonds, is not common. And in fact, when that's occurred, it's predicted 8 of the last 7 recessions, which, by way of saying that, is to say it's not an infallible signal. There's been a false positive elicited by this signal in the last 50 years. But it has high predictive value, particularly if you use this in combination of leading economic indicators, and if they deteriorate to where the year-over-year growth rate falls below 0. If you look at the unemployment rate, anytime it's clicked up by at least 0.3 to 1%, it's never gone back down again, and that's a good indicator of the job market. And last but not least, has the Federal Reserve moved monetary policy into a restrictive phase? And at 1.25 to 1.5% today, it's partially restrictive. So none of my boxes are checked for recession. So I'm watching the yield curve, and it's narrower than it was, but when it was the narrative that you couldn't see anybody talk about anything else but on TV about 2 months ago, when it narrowed to the point where the difference between the 10-year and 2-year yield was just 0.5 to 1%, and directionally looking like the odds were them going lower rather than higher, it spooked some folks. Today, it winds back out to about 68 basis points. And I think the odds are more likely that it's steepening before it becomes a flat, as the Federal Reserve is probably standing pat on doing anything aggressive as it relates to its interest rate policy in 2018. So it's confident that inflation and bond, that is economic activity, are sufficiently strong to perform. So while I still expect them to raise rates perhaps more than market participants at the moment, I just think that they also cooperate with a risk that they and the willingness to fall behind the curve. So, pulling it all together, our outlook for 2018, you have tax reform, which is a fiscal boost. You have the appropriation bill, in other words, budget acts, that together is probably 1.5% of GDP in the United States. Probably going to add a half, some estimate 0.6% to economic activity over and above what's already occurring, which is a base of economic growth that's above trend. You have high levels of consumer and business confidence. You have the synchronous global economic backdrop. Bonds are going to continue to face the headwinds of emerging inflation and an interest rate policy engineered by the Federal Reserve to normalize rates up and toward what they're targeting the terminal rate for the Fed funds rate to be, which is 2.75%. Remember, in the case, we're at 1.25 to 1.5. And so that probably favors an environment for us that is pro-cyclical, meaning we want to be long economically sensitive sectors over defensive, and that very busy chart, mountain chart, a series of mountain charts you see here at the bottom, those that are pointing viciously up and to the right, subsequent to the sell-off in the equity market, represents those cyclical sectors that had been leading, fell hard, but have subsequently rebounded much faster than the classically defensive sectors like consumer staples, real estate investment trusts, telecommunications stocks, and utilities that all tend to be more defensive or interest rate sensitive and therefore aren't geared to economic activities, which is the biggest force when the survey is not approved. That leads us to a target price of the S&P 500 of 3,000 and a bond yield that will post something with a 3 handle on it before it's all said and done. And today we posted 295, so I may be not long to wait for my expectation on that point. So far this year, U.S. stocks have been timing for the pullback. We're up 2% in the U.S. We're up 0.5% to 4% in international markets. We did believe that the flatter U.S.-based portfolios and globally geared economic or that is equity portfolio and bonds are melting, with yields having gone from 2.4% to Dallas printed with bond yields at about 2.88. Now we're at 2.95. So that's going to be worsening, but that was down about 2% year to date. So stocks over bonds and cash in 2018, but scrap it. So stay long, stay tuned. Read our publications, publicdanny.com, and read some of the stuff myself and my group publish. And thank you for your attendance and your time.
So in the last couple minutes, we're going to open the floor to questions. So if anyone has some.
You will raise your hand so they can come around.
So given the expected volatility, as far as last year's growth kind of dominated market, where do you see the best position in value versus growth in profit?
So the question related to style of value over growth. Growth tends to perform well when conditions economically are below trend, are underwhelming. In other words, investors are willing to pay for or pay up for their premium for those things that offer at least a predictable stream of growth, even if it in itself is underwhelming. Value stocks tend to perform better in times when there is some acceleration in economic activity, and they tend as an industry to be more levered and certainly more economically geared, so they're higher beta on the economy. This would seem to be an environment that would be right for value to underperform. It is unprecedented, the period of time over which growth has outperformed value. It's over 10 years. And so, again, as a mean reversionist, one might say values do, which it clearly is. And given the economic prospects that I believe in and have portrayed here this evening, I think as well that should be sufficient tailwinds for values and serve growth. So the sectors that we are wrong are mostly some of those pro-cyclical sectors. And also, if you look at the monetary cycle, monetary investing cycle, we're in a phase that's the second best phase, in which the Federal Reserve is tightening, but it's not restrictive, meaning it doesn't have its interest rate above the expected neutral or terminal rate. In that phase, the sectors that perform best are industrials, technology, materials, and financials, and energy is another. And so those are sectors we're kind of littered and overweighted in as a consequence of that. And at least for the most part, those tend to be those that are more heavily weighted in the value space. At the end of the day, if you look at the difference between the constituents of value growth, it comes down to a call on two sectors, technology and financials. Value is overweighted in financials, growth is overweighted in tech. So if you can technically continue to outperform, then you want to be long run. If you think financials, because we see a lot of interest rates that is helping a lot of these big banks that have over $2 trillion in cash reserves today, they're way overcapitalized, make money hand over fist, let alone lending conditions that are improving because of the CapEx upside. And businesses wanting to expand to do more business. I think you're going to be long. I have to be long within technology software tech because I think spending on tech by capital expenditure related activities of businesses is disproportionately directed to technology, and of that, the disproportionate beneficiary within tech is software tech. So I prefer that, but then actually I'm long financial energy.
How do you go back to your central bank's comments? Central banks are not reinvesting their principal payments. Who are buying these bonds and you're saying liquidity problems going forward?
So who are buying the bonds? Banks are buying the bonds. Again, they have to, under regulatory rules, have a certain amount of high quality collateral that's backing their banking activity. Sovereign wealth funds are buying them, and frankly, global investors. Because when you think about, okay, the U.S. Federal Reserve is allowing this balance sheet going up. First of all, it's not going to go from 4.5 trillion to zero. Some estimates are to probably end up around maybe $2.5 trillion. So that's still a lot of bonds that come into the marketplace. Not to mention the fact that because of the added amount of spending through corporate and individual tax reform and the Budget Act, there's likely to be more treasury issues required to fund that deficit spending that's occurring unless economic growth keeps out, and then obviously the revenue generated from taxing activity will overcompensate for that. But that the yield that we offer here in the United States, while sounding abysmal, and today 2.95 on that 10-year treasury, looks like a high yield bond when compared to global bonds. Today, the 10-year German bond yields about 73 basis points. And the Japanese government bond 10-year is literally being pegged by the Bank of Japan to yield 0.0%, with a float tolerated of between 0 and 0.1%. And today, before I left the office, it was trading at 400 of a basis point. So, I mean, the investors looking for where I can have my capital treated fairly. I can account for the cost of the currency costs, based upon where I sit, and I can earn a yield on a government instrument that enables me to be confident in not only the return on my money, but the return of my money, buying U.S. bonds at these yields exceeding these yields. Now, the question is, as we continue to go to the market for bonds that need to be bought that are no longer being bought by the Federal Reserve and treasury issuance to support the sustaining current tax deficit, then the question is, are we going to continue to see more of the same macro buyers like that in the absence of those who had been the dominant buyers of our bonds, namely China and Japan? Japan's got its own bonds buying, and China seems to be doing everything it can to diversify away from owning U.S. Treasury bonds. It's investing in the U.S. by buying enterprises, not investing necessarily in Treasury bonds. And it has many alternatives. If you look at the International Monetary Fund Special Blind Rights Basket, they could buy the yen, they could buy gold, they could buy the euro, they could buy the cable. There's a lot of options. Granted, none of them have the depth and are dominated by the dollar in terms of world reserve currencies, but there are alternatives to them, particularly since they're working diligently to create hegemon status for themselves in the Eastern Hemisphere. So that is a more, if you will, intermediate or longer term word, not necessarily on
The last couple minutes, you have anything with hands?
I have a question. How do you see the U.S. consumption market play out in terms of e-commerce over the next 2 to 5 years, and then that approach?
So the question related to e-commerce and general activity around it, how do I see that developing? Well, you ain't putting that TV back in the block. So, what we see is carnage, for instance, in the retailing industry, as a consequence of them not having developed e-commerce platforms to be able to compete effectively. Amazon is the price setter, and everybody else is the price taker. One foe who had done an admirable job and just recently reported an earnings report that perhaps was a little less than what market expectations were, but still I think it's doing a good job of fending off the Amazon effect is Walmart. They're bought Jet.com, and therefore has increased its presence in online sales of e-commerce such that it is growing at better than a 40% annualized pace. This last report was down to 23%, and that's what worries investors. Where the other retailers, if you will, are attempting to catch up. But as it relates to e-commerce, whether you're talking about business-related activity or you're talking about retailing-related activity, I think that thematically has an exceedingly long and investable runway associated. 。
How do you see the U.S. consumption market play out in terms of e-commerce over the next 2 to 5 years, and then that approach?
So the question related to e-commerce, whether you're talking about business-related activity or you're talking about retailing-related activity, I think that thematically has an exceedingly long and investable runway associated.
Any more questions?
What are your opinions of cryptocurrency being into a regular and
Well, I don't pretend to be expert on cryptocurrencies. I think that their evolution will be interesting, and I think will ultimately lead to, if you will, their legitimacy, but they're not there yet. And I think evidence of that is the volatility we've seen in these instances recently. Because of the anonymity of the cryptocurrency, it makes it subject to nefarious activity that draws the ire of regulators. Countries like China and South Korea have basically shut down their citizens' access to operating in cryptocurrencies. To be considered to have efficacy as a currency, one, it can't be as volatile as the dollar. The dollar doesn't jump around by 20% a day or lose 65% in a quarter of a week and a half on Bitcoin. Currencies that are stable value, well traded, and deep, don't move like that. So that's a problem. The second part of it is, though, that their adaptability by way of the ubiquity of their use has to expand greatly in order for them to be considered a legitimate currency. And I think there needs to be some regulation around it so that it doesn't again invite nefarious activity and literally fraud or stealing that's been occurring. But as an alternative currency, I think it was born out of a period where, because of the central bank intervention, because fiat currencies can be moved with the ease of a keystroke by a central banker, it invites alternatives that are sort of out of the mainstream and can't be based with keystroke. Gold remains that. So there's sort of a, if you will, unintended gold standard of non-fiat currency. I think cryptocurrencies can earn a place on that mantle, but they're a long way to that. The underlying technology, blockchain, is exceedingly useful and important and being adopted quite widely by major iconic corporations around the world as we speak. So there's no question about its legitimacy, but the cryptocurrency that rests on it still has a long way to go toward maturation. You're welcome.
Yes. So one of the criticisms on the tax reform bill here is that it doesn't address the deficit adequately. And I just want to know your thoughts on that. And allowing the deficit to go the way it is, what the effect on this
Sure. I'm glad you asked that question because I've never spoken at an event, and I've spoken at hundreds of events, which I haven't had a question about deficit brought up. So get worried there. Fewer hands will certainly go up. Well, what's up? $1.5 trillion on track, right? I would say it's a rounding error when your deficit is $20 trillion, but it's something that is a concern in the market. And certainly, I think it has worries, particularly as it relates to the bottom line. Not in terms of its size, because there's a lot of things that can happen between now and 10 years or $1.5 trillion. But what it does mean is that it's likely in the meantime, unless again, economic activity. There was a lot of discussion by people like Larry Summers and Robert Gordon about this notion called secular stagnation, which is to say, all killer apps, every great new application that can increase productivity and boost economic growth has been discovered, and there are no more. And therefore, we're subject to a long period of time of sub-trend economic growth. Well, I think that's starting to be refuted at this point in time, as actually we start to see a slight, still below trend, a slight uptick in productivity. Productivity has admittedly by many economists been very difficult to measure. Who's working on some killer app in a garage right now that could change the world that we don't know about? And with this capital expenditure cycle that we're immersing ourselves into by way of not only what was occurring prior to actually corporate tax reform, but this is just because corporate profits have been so strong, and the average age of capital stock in manufacturers in the United States today is over 12 years. It's the oldest since 1947. Was going to occur anyway. And if that survey is taken, would you have done this? Were you waiting for corporate tax reform to do this? The answer was no. We were doing this anyway because we're so fat with profitability and conditions are so right for us to do it. Now it's only going to accelerate, which actually I think is going to enhance productivity growth and could in fact boost economic activity sufficiently strong as to raise the consistent level of economic growth that again generates revenues for the government to account for what looks like to be deficit spending. Now, there's a lot of hocus involved with that, and it depends on what party you're talking to in terms of how hard they sell for or against that. But bond participants, the bond vigilantes are worried about deficit spending, and if those revenues aren't being created fast enough to account for the current account deficit that's already running at 3 to 4%, and we expect it to widen as the baby boom generation, the 77 billion cohort, continues to age, that were born between 46 and 64, and move into retirement, and continue to draw on what represents 2/3 of the government budget, which is entitlement programs. That current account deficit that the Congressional Budget Office, the CBO, expects to widen to 5% to 6% beyond by 2025. So that's going to continue to add to the $20 trillion debt, which is very serviceable when interest rates today are so low, and the average weighted cost of capital on a $20 trillion of debt is about 1.7%. But what happens if inflation keeps up, if the rate is rate? What happens if we have an auction or two of our treasury that doesn't go quite so well? And so we have to entice foreign capital with higher interest rates to buy our bonds. And also the cost of servicing that debt goes up and begins to pressure, if not crowd out, those entitlement spending programs. That's a problem. So I liken it to a time bomb the wick is lit. I just don't know how long the wick is. But in the meantime, as long as they're buyers for our debt, as long as we have a printing press, we're going to get away. Okay, well.
Any other questions? All right, well, in conclusion, on behalf of the Black Schools Business, FMA, and FDA, we'd like to say thank you, Mark, for coming out and giving this speech. I'm sure we all came to take something away from this opportunity to hear your thoughts on the current economic. So, in conclusion, you can all give Mark one last round of applause.